What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind and welcome back to the History of Comic Book Film series. Today we will be talking about what the future holds for comic book films. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we really are in the golden age of comic book films right now. Comic book films are released every year. They're some of the most successful both financially and critically at the box office. And of course they seem to have won over everyone. Fans, critics and just common moviegoers. Everyone here knows when a comic book film is going to be released because they are sometimes the most advertised films of the year. Just think of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Those films have even broken box office records. They've been that popular in popular culture. However, with all that being said, will the buzz for comic book films last? Of course it won't. One day in the future, comic book films will start to disappear. And we are seeing the start of that process already. You can clearly see that fatigue is starting to set in amongst the general public. And I just thought I would give my ideas on when comic book films will start to regress. So I think fatigue surrounding comic book films has been happening for a while now. Of course, James Cameron, the director, has already stated how much he dislikes comic book films and how he feels that there's just too many of them being released now and that nothing else seems to really be successful unless it's a comic book film. And I can understand that. In my personal opinion, Marvel Phase 4 doesn't seem to be getting the hype and buzz that Marvel Phase 3 got. So that, to me, already shows a kind of decline in the importance of comic book films. I think they peaked last year with Avengers Endgame. I think that was the pinnacle of comic book film success. You know, everyone went to see that movie. It was like the Star Wars of our generation. You know, everyone saw that film and everyone was just excited about it. There were queues being formed outside the cinema, which is not seen very often. What do I think is going to happen to comic book films? Well, I think in the next 5 years, they will start losing momentum. I think less comic book films will be made. Studios will start losing interest in comic book films because they would have just naturally run out of ideas for them and they just will focus on other projects instead. Much like the slasher craze of the 1980s, everything does come to an end eventually. We are very silly to think that comic book films will last forever because of course they won't. One day attention will pass and the general viewing public just won't be interested in them anymore. I think they will still make comic book films. They won't be the highlighted films of the year. They won't be the films which everyone goes and sees. There'll be more the subtle films released later in the year which generally do perform well at the box office. However, they're not getting the amount of money which films such as Avengers Endgame would get. Now, am I upset about this? Well, yeah, because I am a massive fan of comic book films. However, we have so many comic book films to look back on now. And we're very lucky that we've lived through this golden age of them. We've seen them at their peak. And that's something that we will never forget. So thanks for watching guys, I really do hope that you enjoyed this instalment of the history of comic book films. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And that is the end of the history of comic book film series. I started this almost a year ago and thank you guys for your support. I've really enjoyed doing this series and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And I will see you in another video. See ya!